Hi, St. Libre. Um, Welcome to installment number 2 of Eric TV. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys quickly about motivation, and because one of the questions you guys asked at the end was how we motivate students uh, who traditionally haven't done well in school. How do we motivate them to want to be successful in the classroom? It's a really tough thing because these kids have gone throughout school, never really experienced success, don't see their value, don't see a value in school, don't see a place for them within that school, and so motivation is kind of a tough thing. And in general, you think about the bigger ideas of motivation. We want to have some balance between extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. You know, the outside factors, the rewards, giving kids candy, stuff like that. That's extrinsic, and that can certainly lead to a slight bump in students' motivation. But what's going to lead to long-term gains and actually them sustaining involvement in the classroom is if you can foster that intrinsic motivation. That coming from within, that they see the value to learning, they see their purpose in the classroom, and that's what motivates them, is because they see that connection between effort and success. And I know we've talked a lot about that. And I think the two things, and I put this in the email, but the two things that motivation really boils down to are students feeling valued within the classroom, students feeling like they have a place. And so one of the things, an item you might want to start discussing is, do I have students in my class that maybe don't feel valued? Do I see students who aren't motivated? And if so, are they not motivated because maybe they don't feel valued? And how can I make them feel more valued? How can I make them feel part of the community? The other part to that is, how can I help them become successful? How can I make a connection between effort and success? And both of those are very, very much part of creating a differentiated classroom. And so one of the things, if we can hit on student interests in the classroom, that certainly can lead to higher motivation because they see a value. They say, hey, this is something that's actually being designed for me, or somebody has taken into account what I think about this. And so that can be a big motivator for a lot of kids because they can now see that there is something for them. Having a role in the classroom. If you assign jobs or tasks, students will feel valued if they have a role. Even within groups, assigning roles within those groups. And so students can then, I have a purpose. And so I know we've talked about Jigsaw before, and that is a strategy that can really, really give a student value very, very quickly. And so what we're really, really aiming for is to give students value with that and making sure that that's something that they feel a part of. The second thing, again, is that success. We want to make sure we're tying effort to success and that we're really helping students see that connection. And so in terms of motivating kids, there's sort of 4 things that you want to focus on. Number 1, students should see a gap. Teachers should see a gap. Where are these students lagging behind? Where is this gap? The second one is, what are my goals to help close this gap? What are my goals? So let's say a student lags behind in multiplication. What are some specific goals that can help a student achieve that? How can we close that gap? So then the next step is strategy. So we have seeing a gap, setting goals, strategies to close that gap, and then the last one is actually closing it, and then students seeing that. And if students can see that step 4, closing the gap, that's where that success starts coming into play and they become motivated. And so a key thing about all of this is seeing the gap, is setting the goals, is that students are actively involved in that entire process. And when students are actively involved in that entire process, they're much more motivated and see value in the classroom. And so all of this is very much tied together. And so in terms of having some key conditions, so we've talked about students feeling valued, students having a place, students feeling successful. And again, that's when we close the gap, no matter what that gap is. And we have gaps for kids who are super intelligent. They still have gaps. They're just different. They're gaps on the higher end of the spectrum as opposed to what skills are kind of lacking down here. And so we want all students to see that, because even if your brightest students don't see a value in terms of, I'm not learning anything in this class, then they can also lose focus and lose interest as well. And so we want to value kids. We want to show that they're part of the class. We want to help them feel motivated by showing that they can be successful. And then again, that's what's the gap? What are my goals? What are some strategies to close it? And then actually closing it. And then the last thing that I'll mention to you guys is that kind of the key conditions to really inviting students to learning. Number 1 is having respect. We want to make sure that all students are valued in the classroom. We need trust, and that's cooperation and collaboration within the classroom, and making sure we have that. We need to be optimistic, and also we need to have intentionality. And so being optimistic for all our students, and then having intentionality in the sense that the flow of the lesson is actually designed for students. And so we've intentionally said, hey, we're taking your needs into account as we're designing this. And that's the important stuff we want to think about. So just to kind of recap, students need to feel valued. All right, and that means respect, trust. We're optimistic. We have the mindset that those kids can be successful. And intentionality is that that flow of the lesson is designed for those students. And if they see those things, they're going to feel valued. And then getting back to what are my gaps? What are the goals to close those gaps? What are some strategies to do that? And then actually seeing that success. So value and success are the two big things in my mind that can really help lead to motivation. And so spending some time talking about this, thinking about specific cases of students in your class, thinking about them, and trying some interventions with this. Because so often we say, oh, you're not doing this because, or you're not doing this and I don't know why. Why aren't you motivated? And instead of asking the why, let's focus on what John Hattie, who's a writer, likes to call visible learning. Instead of focusing on what am I as a teacher doing, I'm not teaching this, or I am teaching this. It's all about teaching, and instead let's put the focus on the learning. Put the focus on the student. What is the evidence that they've learned this stuff? And as we can show students that evidence and show them that they are becoming successful, that's a big step in that process. So I hope this is helpful. I apologize for my roommate running behind me a second ago. He just got home. But I look forward to speaking with you guys again. And if you have any questions, please let me know.